I am the outreach social worker for the Milwaukee County DHHS Division on Aging. And today I want to talk about the things to consider and think about as we plan for aging, and then also resources and information that would be helpful once we need it as we age. Hopefully you can learn something new today about these topics, and if you know somebody who wasn't able to make it today but has questions about any of this stuff, please let them know. I'll talk about a little bit more about the Division on Aging at the end of the presentation, but please let them know about us and that they can call us anytime with any questions that they have in the future. And that, of course, this presentation will be recorded and available on YouTube. So yeah, I'll take any questions that you have at the end of the presentation. I am going to turn my camera off for the presentation today, but I'll still be here, still be talking. And if there's any technical issues, sometimes I do have a little bit of trouble with my internet, I will come right back and make sure that we finish up today. Today is a pretty content-dense presentation. There's a lot to talk about. I'm going to give a broad overview about topics for preparing for aging, and then things that would be helpful once we need it. But it's going to be just that, an overview with some detail. And that supplement that Melody mentioned is going to be very helpful for follow-up resource contact information and further information. And then, of course, you can always call us at the Division on Aging as well with any further questions after the presentation if they're not answered. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off and I will get started. So like I said, my name's Andy. I work for the Milwaukee County Division on Aging, and today we'll be talking about planning for your care in later life. And the mission of the Milwaukee County Division on Aging is to affirm the dignity and value of the older adults of this county by supporting their choices for living in and giving to the community. So today, I am here to talk about things that support this mission for any older adults 60 and over who do reside in Milwaukee County. The vision of the Milwaukee County Division on Aging is that Milwaukee County elders will have the resources to live as independently as possible in their communities. And a lot of the resources I'm talking about today are really geared to support people's independence as it becomes harder to do things that were easier in the past. We'll be talking about both resources, services, and information that will help us prepare for aging and prevent complications of aging, and also resources and services that are helpful for when we need them. So to prepare and prevent, we'll talk about Medicare, Medicaid, and other benefits, advanced directives, funeral planning, and other life organizing, home safety and housing, and Milwaukee County Division on Aging and other Milwaukee County services. And for help when we need it, we'll talk about long-term care and what it is and what it means. We'll talk about ways to get more help at home. And also we'll talk about ways to get help somewhere else in the community at another residence. And Melody, can I just ask, I lost view of everybody. Can you still see the presentation?
Yeah, you're on the overview page right now.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. I just can't see anybody anymore. So I just wanted to make sure. Great. All right, so I'll move right along, talking about things that, oh, there it is, okay. Talking about resources for preparation and prevention. First, Medicare. What is it, how does it work, and who can use it? And I know that you two and anyone who's watching this on the recording may be familiar with Medicare, but I really just want to talk about the core components of it and what it is and what it provides. So it is health insurance. It is primarily for people aged 65 years of age and older, but not only for people 65 years of age and older. And there are four primary parts of Medicare: hospital insurance, Part A; medical insurance, Medicare Part B, and those two are known as Original Medicare together; And then also Medicare Part D, which is prescription drug coverage for prescription drugs. Those plans are run by private companies. And Medicare Part C, also known as Medicare Advantage plans, which are run by private companies, would include Medicare Parts A and B together, and sometimes Medicare Part D, and also sometimes extra benefits like some vision and or dental coverage. Those are the core parts of Medicare. People can also choose to enroll or look into Medigap plans, which are also known as Medicare supplement plans. These pay the quote unquote gaps of the original Medicare, like deductibles, coinsurance, and co-payments, and they only work with original Medicare. They do not work with Medicare Advantage plans. And in general, original Medicare insurance pays for 80% of covered medically necessary services. So that's original Medicare generally pays for 80% of covered medically necessary services, but not the remaining 20%. Most people first enroll in Medicare during their initial enrollment period, which is the 3 months before their 65th birthday, the month of their 65th birthday, and the 3 months following their 65th birthday. Every year, there's an annual, what's called open enrollment period, where people can change and select Medicare plans. That goes from October 15th to December 7th. And it's also important to note that for many people, there's a premium that needs to be paid to be enrolled into Medicare Part B. And there also may be other costs for those Part C or Medicare Advantage plans, and for the Medigap or supplement plans as well. So Medicaid, this is also another very important health insurance program, but it is a little different than Medicare, although it can work with Medicare. People can have both Medicare and Medicaid. Medicaid is a joint federal and state program that provides health care coverage, long-term care, and other services to eligible individuals. It can act as a secondary insurance to Medicare, where it would actually cover that 20% of covered medically necessary services that Medicare does not cover. And there are many types of Medicaid programs in Wisconsin. Each program has different rules for eligibility, like for age and income, that an individual must meet to be eligible for the program. I'll talk about a few relevant types of Medicaid here. The eligibility for each of these programs must actually be determined by applying for the program. And I say that because not all income types are counted for that income eligibility. And some qualified expenses can actually reduce the income that is counted for eligibility for a person. So the first Medicaid program I'd like to talk about is Badger Care Plus. This is Medicaid insurance for qualified children, pregnant women, and adults up to age 65. Next is what's called EBD Medicaid, or Elderly, Blind, and Disabled Medicaid. This is also known as SSI related Medicaid, or Supplemental Security Income related Medicaid. This type of Medicaid is for adults age 65 or older who are eligible, or for people who have been determined blind or disabled by the Disability Determination Bureau. Again, there are income asset eligibility requirements for these programs as well. Next is the Medicaid Purchase Plan, also known as MAP. This is a type of Medicaid for people, any adult 18 and older in Wisconsin, who has a job, is self-employed, and does in-kind work, or is enrolled in what's called a health and employment counseling program. And in-kind work is work that's performed at least once per month in exchange for food, goods, or services. So those are the basic requirements in addition to income and asset eligibility for the program. So those are the main types of Medicaid I wanted to talk about. Something to keep in mind with the Medicaid program is something called the Estate Recovery Clause. This seeks repayment for the cost of certain long-term care services paid for on behalf of members by Medicaid, Badger Care Plus, or other Medicaid programs. So that recovery is made by the state of Wisconsin from the estates of members who have passed away, from the estates of their surviving spouses, from certain non-probate property and from liens placed on their homes. Recovery is only made, though, when a member and the member's dependents no longer need those assets. So it's something to keep in mind, where the state of Wisconsin will seek repayment for the cost of certain long-term care services for people who have gotten those services, at least in part, through one of those Medicaid programs. This information would be on the resource supplement too, but people can apply online for Medicaid or by calling locally in the county Milwaukee Enrollment Services. And I think there's other important benefits that should be discussed as well. And so I've listed them here on the screen, and I'll go through them just to know about and even look into now if it's something that you're interested in and eligible for. Although I did want to mention for Medicaid, going back a little bit, that Medicaid kind of acts like any other health insurance program. Once you enroll into it, you get a insurance card called the Forward Health Card, and then you would use it like other insurance cards. Some people may pay to be in a Medicaid program something called a cost share, which is a monthly premium, which is partly based on their income. So it's like other health insurances where there may be a monthly premium called a cost share. So moving on, the first benefit to think about is the Affordable Care Act health insurance, or ACA. It is also commonly referred to as Obamacare. So this is health insurance for people who are not yet Medicare eligible at the age of 65. So it's for people younger than 65, and also for people who do not qualify for a Medicaid program. All of the Affordable Care Act health insurance plans include specific essential benefits that are required through the federal government to be an ACA plan. Premium assistance is available to help with the cost of premiums for people who use ACA insurance. And there are also cost sharing reductions available that will reduce the out-of-pocket maximum that people would have to face to be enrolled into one of these health insurance programs. Every year there's open enrollment for, again, also for ACA plans from November 1st to December 15th. People can also enroll into an ACA plan during certain times in their lives that would be considered major life changes through what's called a special enrollment period, or an SEP. And also related to the pandemic, people can enroll now for ACA plans until, I believe, August 15th. So that enrollment for that is not this year limited just to the open enrollment period, but can also be done now. Social Security. Now this is not a health insurance program. You're likely familiar with it. It's an income program. There are different parts of Social Security there, and I'll talk about the main ones to be aware of for this presentation. It is Social Security or income programs provided through federal government and mostly funded by dedicated payroll taxes. Social Security retirement is like the main one to think about. This is that retirement income, Social Security, which is what, when people talk about Social Security, they're commonly referring to Social Security retirement. This replaces a percentage of a worker's pre-retirement income based on their lifetime earnings. The portion of the pre-retirement wages that Social Security replaces is based on a person's highest 35 years of earnings and varies depending on how much they earn and when they choose to begin receiving their Social Security retirement benefit. The full retirement benefit age is between age 65 and 67, depending on a person's year of birth. People can elect to take Social Security retirement as early as age 62, but but doing that, their benefit can be reduced 25 to 30% versus taking that benefit at the full retirement age. If someone delays past the full retirement age, the amount of the Social Security retirement they would receive once they choose to take it increases until that person turns age 70. And after that, the benefit does not increase. The second type of Social Security is called SSI, or Supplemental Security Income. And in 2021, that would earn eligible individuals up to an extra $877.78 per month for one person, and that combines the state and federal SSI amounts. SSI is for people who are in financial need, who are 65 years of age or older, or for people of any age who are blind or disabled and in financial need. Second, actually I should say third, the third type of Social Security I'll be discussing today is Supplemental Security Income Exceptional Expense, or SSIE. This would provide up to an extra $95.99 per month for one person, and it's for people who already receive SSI, have higher monthly expenses, and live in a certified assisted living facility or need more care services at home. To learn more about Social Security, any of these programs, or to apply, you can go online to the Social Security Administration website or call Social Security and you can online create a Social Security account to keep tabs on everything. And to apply for that SSIE, or Supplemental Security Income Exceptional Expense, again, you would go through the County Milwaukee Enrollment Services office. All right, next, food share, which is also commonly known as food stamps or SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is a benefit in the state of Wisconsin for people who are eligible to purchase food that in specific categories. It's again, for people who are financially eligible. Money is given on what's called a Quest card. It acts just like a debit card and can be used to participating retailers to buy food. And to apply for that, people can apply online through the state of Wisconsin, or again, by calling Milwaukee Enrollment Services. Energy assistance is a program that provides for eligible individuals, an annual one-time payment towards heating and electric bills. The application period for energy assistance is from October 1st to this year, May 15th. So it ends pretty soon on May 15th. People who do qualify for energy assistance, though, can also apply for additional services such as crisis and crisis prevention assistance, furnace repair or replacement, and weatherization assistance. And energy assistance in Milwaukee County can be applied for directly through the Energy Assistance Program at keepwarmmke.org or by calling them. I'd like to talk about two main prescription cost assistance programs today. One is called Extra Help and the other is called Wisconsin Senior Care. Extra Help is a program through the federal government to help cover the out-of-pocket costs of prescription drugs for financially eligible individuals. It will pay for monthly premiums, annual deductibles, and co-payments related to the Medicare prescription drug program, also known again as Part D. That would be applied for directly through Social Security. Wisconsin Senior Care provides prescription assistance, and for people can provide prescription co-pays as low as $5 out of pocket for generic drugs and $15 out of pocket for brand name prescriptions. The Senior Care program works with Medicare Part D, or can also work as a Part D plan itself. Senior Care is for people who are 65 and older who live in, the state of Wisconsin. Anyone with any level of income can apply to get assistance through Senior Care, and there are different benefit levels of Senior Care based on income ranges, but there is no asset test, so it is strictly determined by income. However, there is a $30 application fee, and the program must be applied for, or I should say reapplied for annually, and each year there's that $30 reapplication fee as well. It's a basic 2-page application, very easy to fill out. The application can be gotten online through the Senior Care website, or people can contact the Senior Care hotline for more information and to get a mailed copy of it. We also have it at the Division on Aging. And finally, the Medicare Savings Program. The Medicare Savings Program is a wonderful program that I really try to promote a lot, available through the federal government, that will pay for Medicare out-of-pocket costs based on a person's benefit level. And for those who qualify at the highest income level, it will still at least pay for a person's Medicare Part B premium every month. So it's a wonderful program. It can be very helpful for a lot of people, and it is. People can apply for this through the state of Wisconsin online, or by calling Milwaukee Enrollment Services. All right, so those are all very important benefits just to be aware of. Moving on, I'd like to talk a little bit about thinking about the future and getting support and making decisions when it's needed. So the first tool that people should be aware of is the power of attorney for healthcare. This is an incredibly important tool, and it avoids the need for a guardianship in the event that a tool like this would be needed. So it can be very helpful. So this power of attorney for healthcare form makes it possible for adults in Wisconsin to authorize other individuals, whom would be called healthcare agents, to make healthcare decisions on their behalf should they become incapacitated. It may also be used to make or refuse an anatomical gift. Incapacitation means that, and for this form, if it's completed by a person to go into effect, two physicians or a physician and a psychologist would have to sign off saying that that person cannot make their own healthcare decisions. That is incapacitation. That's when the form would become activated, or and when someone would be found incapacitated. So it's not taken lightly at all. Two physicians or a physician and a psychologist might have to say that that person, at least temporarily, is not able to make their own healthcare decisions. The power of attorney healthcare form itself is a free form available through the state of Wisconsin. It can be accessed online. We have copies at the Division on Aging, and people can fill it out. I always tell people that they should definitely fill out this form and make their healthcare decisions known, but they should also talk to the people that they're choosing to be their healthcare agents about what they want and what they don't want, so that they know, and those people have heard from you about your wishes, and it's not only on this important form. Once it's completed, it's advisable to give copies to the healthcare agents, to the physician for your medical record, and also keep copies for yourself, like keep one in a safe place in your home, along with a list of who has a copy of the document. The power of attorney for healthcare can be revoked at any time. All right, moving on. The living will. This is similar to a power of attorney for healthcare, but it's a little more limited, and it does not name other people, healthcare agents, to make the decisions for you. It makes it possible for adults in Wisconsin to state their preferences for life-sustaining procedures and feeding tubes in the event that the person is in a terminal condition or persistent vegetative state. People can have a completed power of attorney for healthcare and a living will at the same time, but those documents would need to be consistent in the guidance that the person would like. If it comes down to it, the power of attorney for healthcare does overrule the living will if there's a conflict between two completed forms. Again, the living will is a free state form in Wisconsin, available online, or we can provide it as well. It's available online through the state of Wisconsin. And again, I tell people to give copies of this to people they know, to their physician for their medical record, and also, of course, to keep copies for themselves, putting copies in a safe place along with a list of who has a copy of it. And again, this can be revoked at any time. All right, so the power of attorney for finances. This authorizes another person known as your agent to make decisions concerning your property for you. You are known as the principal in this document, if you're the one filling it out. Your agent would be able to make decisions and act with respect to your property, including your money, whether or not you are able to act for yourself. It's important because it avoids the need for a guardian of estate to be appointed by a court, which can be a lengthy and expensive process. It is also a free state form that is available through the state of Wisconsin website or from us, or people often and can work with an attorney to draft this. It's known also as a durable power of attorney. it becomes effective immediately unless you state otherwise in the special instructions in the document. And it's durable because it does not terminate upon the principal's incapacity, unless it specifically states that it terminates if the principal becomes incapacitated. And by signing it, you would not be giving up any powers or rights to control your finances or property. Instead, you're giving the person you name your agent, in addition to yourself, the authority to handle your finances and property. And unless you specify otherwise in the power of attorney for finances, generally the agent's authority will continue until the principal has passed away or revokes the power of attorney, or the agent resigns or is unable to act on behalf of the principal. And it's important to note that there are many actions an agent would need specific legal authority to do through this document, regardless of how much or how little money or assets the principal or a person has, or whether you hold most of your assets jointly with another person. Some examples of duties would be applying for work-related disability or income continuation benefits, and public benefits such as Social Security disability. Also signing tax forms or filing, for example, insurance claims or appealing denials. Once a person has completed this, they should send a copy to all of their financial contacts like bank, stockbroker, mortgage company, insurance agent, etc. Also give a copy, like the other documents, to your agent and alternate agents, as well as to trustworthy family members and or your attorney. And finally, again, it's advisable to place a copy in a safe place in the home, along with a list of who actually has copies of the financial power of attorney for finances. And this document, they may be revoked at any time, but if you revoke this document, you definitely should notify the person or persons you've named to be your agent and any other person or entities that have a copy. And then if it is updated, also providing that new copy to those people as well. There are some important other planning documents to be aware of and to consider: supported decision-making documents, wills, do not resuscitate or DNR orders, and personal inventories. So a supported decision-making agreement is a form recognized in the state of Wisconsin legally that helps individuals with disabilities and also aging adults to make decisions about their lives. The people who complete this form choose the people they trust to help them gather and understand information, compare options, and communicate their decisions to others. These decision-making agreements can be used for any decisions that the individual feels they need additional support for, like housing, healthcare, financial affairs, or other areas that the person identifies on the supported decision-making agreement itself. Copies of this, once it's completed, should be shared with the people who are deemed the supporters, with any physicians, financial institutions, schools, and anyone else who would be involved, or any other organizations or professionals that would be involved in a person's life or their care. The person can include a specific date when the agreement ends, and either the person or the supporter can revoke a supported decision-making agreement at any time, and supported decision-making agreements are automatically revoked in specific situations. Moving on, a will, you are likely also very familiar with a will. It's commonly discussed, but to be a little more specific, this is a written document that allows you to designate who will receive your estate after someone passes away. It also designates who would raise a person's children if they pass away while the children are still minors, and if there's a spouse, whether the spouse is unavailable to care for them. This will also designates whether beneficiaries receive their inheritance outright or in a trust, and also designates who would serve as the personal representative or executor, which is the person who would pay the bills and taxes and distribute the rest of a person's estate to their beneficiaries after they passed away. A will can also include a person's funeral preferences. And I think it's important to think and consider about completing a will. If you have accumulated some assets and you care who will receive those assets after you die, no matter how much or little, then it's probably time to write a will. A legal will in the state of Wisconsin must be in writing and must be dated and signed by the writer. At least 2 witnesses must also sign the will. The witnesses should not be beneficiaries named in the will or the heirs as designated by law for the will, for property and assets from the will. If an executor for the will is not named, then a court would appoint one. And if someone wants to complete a new will, they can simply write a new one or add a supplement and destroy the old one. If a person does pass away without a will and there are assets that would be distributed with a will, the court would appoint a personal representative who would then distribute the entire estate. All right, moving on. DNR, I think this is a lesser known form to consider, but it's called the Do Not Resuscitate Order, DNR, and it's also very important and may come up in a number of situations. So a Do Not Resuscitate Order directs emergency medical technicians, first responders, and emergency healthcare facility personnel not to attempt cardiopulmonary resuscitation or CPR on the person for whom the order is issued if that person suffers cardiac or respiratory arrest. The purpose of a DNR form order is to ensure that medical care is provided in the emergency department and out of hospital settings as well, that is consistent with the patient's desire and the physician's authorization. For a DNR order to be legal, a state form must be completed. Again, this is a free form. And to identify a valid DNR order, the person who's completed it would wear what's called a DNR bracelet that identifies that valid order. For it to be revoked, the patient, patient's guardian, or healthcare agent who signed the DNR form can revoke the order by removing or asking someone to remove the DNR bracelet. The attending physician must be notified as soon as possible if that does occur. And finally, it's good to consider when thinking about the future, a personal inventory that would be used to supplement the other advanced directives in the will discussed here. So a personal inventory can list a person's all of their financial assets, their personal possessions of value to them, any debts a person may have, and also important documents that a person may have and how to access these things. It should include where those things are, how they can be accessed, and should be stored the documents should be stored in a safe place in a person's home and shared with people, trusted people. People can also consider creating a digital estate plan, which would be a document listing someone's online or digital life, including their virtual accounts like Facebook profile, other important virtual accounts that aren't social media, maybe a bank login, things like that, and how to access those accounts so that they can be taken care of once a person does pass away. Related, but also separate, is thinking about funeral planning. I think people should do this at any time in their life to prepare for the future. They're like, where do we begin? What to start to think about when you're thinking about funeral planning, which can be a very hard thing to think about for sure. Number one, figure out how much you can afford. How much would it cost, and how much can you afford for a funeral and other related expenses? Number two, set a solid budget. If you don't set a limit on how much you can comfortably spend, then the funeral home will not set a budget for you. Setting a sound budget means figuring out how much you can afford without skipping out on your expenses, depleting your savings, or taking on high interest credit card debt. It's what you can afford. And number three, make sure that you shop around. Funeral prices vary by thousands of dollars, sometimes for exactly the same service, and sometimes all within the same town or area. The Federal Trade Commission has very good information about funeral planning, including a person's rights when it comes to thinking about funeral planning and cemetery planning. So your rights are, you You have the right to buy only the funeral arrangements that you want. You have the right to get price information on the telephone. You have the right to get written, itemized price lists when you visit a funeral home. You have the right to see a written casket price list before you see the actual caskets. You have the right to see a written outer burial container price list. You also have the right to receive a written statement after you decide what you want and before you pay. And you have the right to get an explanation in that written statement from the funeral home that describes any legal cemetery or crematory requirements that requires you to buy any funeral goods or services. You have the right to use an alternative container instead of a casket for cremation. You have the right to provide the funeral home with a casket or urn that you would buy elsewhere, not at the funeral home. And you have the right to make funeral arrangements without embalming. Also, considering funeral planning, you should also be considering cemetery purchases, which may not be included in that funeral planning. In Wisconsin, there's an advanced directive form that people can fill out and acquire for free called the Authorization for Final Disposition, which would appoint someone else to make funeral arrangements upon the death of the individual who has completed that form. It does become effective upon that person's death. And finally, you may or may not have heard of this program. Wisconsin has a program called the Funeral and Cemetery Aids Program. It is commonly known as burial assistance. This provides payments for the unmet funeral and burial and or cemetery and crematory expenses of a person who at the time of death was enrolled in or eligible for a Medicaid or other state public benefit program. For the funeral and burial expenses, it can provide assistance up to $1,500, and for the cemetery and crematory expenses, assistance can be provided up to $1,000. There's also a newer federal program, I did not include this in the presentation, that can provide funeral assistance with funeral and funeral expenses for people related to COVID-19. And definitely, if you have questions about that, you can give us a call at the Aging Resource Center and we can talk about that. Okay, so kind of pivoting here, one important component of thinking about planning for the future as we age is how are we going to age in place if we want to stay where we're already living? First of all, people should be thinking about reviewing where they live for maximum livability, comfort, and safety. Thinking about those things and how to prepare for them is considered aging in place. That's the goal, to not move somewhere else, but age where you live. And making modifications for to that end would be considered universal design, making things so that they're safe and accessible and comfortable for the duration of a person's life, for their entire life. So something to do is to assess where you currently live for livability. Examples of livability concerns would be whether or not the windows are easy to open, is there good lighting, are there appropriate handrails, are there rugs that are tripping hazards, etc. And then thinking about, will the residence you live in be manageable to maintain as you age, or will you be able to afford help if it would not be? There are some very helpful residence review checklists for these elements to look at home safety, accessibility, and comfort, available for free for a person's use on their own for self-review. There's organizations in Milwaukee County that are good resources also to support this effort. People can, if they want to, they can work with an occupational therapist or what's known as a certified aging in place specialist to assess the residents and assist in making needed modifications to make it comfortable to age in place in. If people are looking at downsizing as they age or more affordable housing, there are some options. I'll go over a few of them here. Independent senior housing are typically multi-unit apartment style settings for independent older adults. They can also be townhomes or condos for sale, usually for people either 55 or 62 years of age and older. Certain facilities, certain of independent senior housing buildings may require residents' annual income to fall below certain guidelines. which would be below market rate senior housing. And there's also subsidized independent senior housing. This is usually for people who are financially eligible, 62 years of age and older. And in these apartments, people would pay approximately 30% of their income for rent and utilities. So it's significantly reduced costs to live there. And then also, just kind of wrapping up this first part here, the Milwaukee County Division on Aging, other Milwaukee County services are available for people for quality of life and for getting more help. We have wellness programs for healthy aging, for different health issues that people may have. There's many senior centers in the county, including 5 county-owned senior centers that people can use for all sorts of reasons, including leisure and recreation. We have a great senior dining program where people can get lunches who are eligible and older adults, transportation options, and then also things that can help when people really do need it. Meals on Wheels or home delivered meals, long-term care services, which we'll talk about in a little bit, dementia care services for people with a form of dementia, and also caregivers, especially caregivers of people with dementia, and elder abuse for people who are being abused or neglected, or who are engaging in self-neglect. So that was a lot. I'm going to finish up here talking about what help is available and what are the categories of assistance for people as they age when they need it and are not only just preparing for it anymore. What is long-term care? So it's a commonly used term, but not a commonly defined term. Long-term care are services for, this is a good way to understand it at least, they're services for health or personal care needs when people can no longer perform everyday activities on their own. These are services for independence and safety for a person, and they can be used for a short period of time or for a long period of time. Those services, those everyday activities, fall under 2 categories. We've got our activities of daily living, or ADLs, and our instrumental activities of daily living, or IADLs. Those ADLs can be considered as dressing, eating, mobility in home, transferring, toileting, and bathing. And those IADLs can be considered meal preparation, medication administration and medication management, money management, laundry and or chores, telephone use, and transportation. And so hopefully you can see this chart on the screen. This table is just there to kind of show you the cost overall, a rough average cost based on the information from a local organization, the Family Caregiver Support Network, of getting assistance with long-term care services at home. Per month, you'd be looking at roughly $1,117 to $1,703 per month, and maybe a little bit more, as compared to an assisted living facility, which would be on average $2,200 to $5,000 per month, or a nursing home, which would be $5,000 or more per month, and probably more per month. So the point there is, it's likely a lot more affordable to be able to just get the services that people need to get that extra help at home, rather than moving to a separate care facility. And so thinking about what are those services and how can people pay for them, there are homemaking services and or personal care services. This is where people will come into the home, help with any of those ADLs and IADLs, but it does not include assistance with tasks performed by a licensed health professional like a nurse, a physician, a physical therapist, etc. Medicare will not pay for these services alone. That's something important to know. Then there are home health care services. These are intermittent skilled nursing services performed by a registered nurse or a licensed practical nurse, and home health aid services, and they may provide physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and language pathology services, and medical supplies and equipment. Under specific conditions, original Medicare Part A covers these services for 60 days at a time. Aging life care professionals, they're also known as private geriatric care managers. Aging life care professionals is actually a certification that you'd want to look out for if this is something you might be interested in. These are specifically trained professionals, basically private social workers or care managers, who can help you find resources to make your daily life easier and to get assistance with those ADLs and IADLs. They would work with you to form a long-term care plan and find the services you need, but they are paid for privately. Typically, they would charge by the hour, and their services would not be covered by most insurances and definitely not Medicare. Based on information from a 2017 AARP survey, an initial assessment by an aging life care professional can cost between $300 and $800, and an average ongoing hourly rates can range from $100 to $200 or more for the services of a professional, aging life care professional. And then finally, for paying for these help with long-term care services, ADLs and IADLs, there is long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance is an umbrella term for a few different types I'll talk about. And there's a lot of things to think about when considering long-term care insurance. It will pay for a host of services that are not covered by regular health insurance, including Medicare. It includes assistance with routine daily activities like bathing, dressing, or getting in and out of bed. It would also help cover the cost of that care when an individual has a chronic medical condition, a disability, or disorder like Alzheimer's disease. Most policies will reimburse you for care given in a variety of places like your home, a nursing home, an assisted living facility, and adult daycare center as well. Rates are based on factors including a person's age and health. People sometimes cannot qualify with certain pre-existing conditions. And as of 2017, there are 3 major types of long-term care insurance from 7 major companies. Number 1 is traditional long-term care insurance. This locks in a benefit for a set number of years. The traditional policies are triggered once a person cannot perform 2 of those 6 activities of daily living, or a person suffers from a severe cognitive impairment like Alzheimer's disease. Benefits start typically after a 30 to 90-day waiting period under the traditional long-term care insurance policies. The average annual premium, based on the information I could find for a traditional long-term care insurance plan, is $2,727. Rate stability for these types of traditional plans are not guaranteed, and people must pay premiums until they need the care. If people do stop paying premiums, who have a traditional long-term care insurance plan, they would forfeit the plan and all the premiums they had already paid. The second type of long-term care insurance is short-term care insurance. This covers up to 360 days at a home or in a facility of care. Qualifying is a little bit easier with a short-term care plan. Unlike with traditional insurance, you might not have to answer as many medical underwriting questions. An example of costs would be for a 65-year-old, they might pay $928 per year for a 1-year policy with a $150 per day benefit. Some policies of short-term care, long-term care insurance policies would allow you to carry forward the unused amount and stretch out the coverage period for longer than a year. And because the potential benefit period is shorter and more predictable, these policies do have a better history of rate stability. But though they might not cover all care options and may have stricter requirements. And finally, the third type of long-term care insurance is hybrid life and long-term care insurance, which would allow you to use the death benefit to pay for long-term care. If you wouldn't need help under this plan, then your heirs would get the full payout. Rates are considered non-cancelable, which means that premiums are fixed for life and they're often paid all at once upfront. So that single premium means that you'd have to come up with a bigger sum of money at once to pay for it. And from the information I could find, in 2016, the average single premium was $89,000. And unlike with traditional long-term care insurance, the premiums, however, are not tax deductible. And a potential drawback is that you may also buy life insurance you don't need by using a hybrid life and long-term care insurance plan. Some tips for looking at long-term care insurance is don't buy more insurance than you think you may need. Don't buy too little insurance. Look carefully at each policy. There is no one-size-fits-all policy. And if you choose a policy that only pays for room and board in a facility, plan for other expenses like supplies, medications, linens, and other items and services that your policy may not cover. It costs less to buy coverage the younger that you may be. And make sure that you can afford long-term care insurance policies over time, as your monthly income, of course, may change. Definitely, like with any insurance or any options, research and consider different options and talk with a professional before finalizing your decision. And no, definitely don't feel pressured into making a decision. You can buy directly from a insurance company or use an insurance agent. If you do use an agent, consider using an independent insurance agent. Make sure that they and the company they work for are licensed. Review and ask what their credentials mean, and then also check for any complaints against that agent or the company that you would choose. And information about how to follow up on those tips is also available in that supplement. All right, moving on. I know we're running a little low on time, but I am almost done here. State-funded long-term care, also known as publicly funded long-term care programs, provide help with long-term care services that people may need through public funding. So that it's for people who are financially eligible for that EBD Medicaid or elderly, blind, and disabled Medicaid application, and also for people who are functionally eligible, which means that they need enough help at home with those ADLs and IADLs. People who are interested in this would begin the enrollment process through us at the Division on Aging. Once they're enrolled, there may be a monthly premium called a cost share to be in the plan. That's depending mostly on someone's income. And there are some other options for getting help with long-term care services at home, but they're usually limited in scope and duration. And we can definitely tell people what those options are if they call the Aging Resource Center. All right. So what is an assisted living? Assisted living in the state of Wisconsin is one of three things: a residential care apartment complex, adult family home, or a community-based residential facility. That residential care apartment complex has 5 or more adults in independent apartments who do not need more than 28 hours per week of care. However, an adult family home is for 3 to 4 adults that receive care and services, but do not receive more than 7 hours per week of nursing care. And finally, a community-based residential facility is for 5 or more adults that receive care and services, but do not need more than 3 hours per week of nursing care. Across all assisted livings, there are 5 basic services required in the state of Wisconsin: health monitoring, medication assistance, information and referral services, leisure time services, and personal care. Medicare does not cover assisted living, but those state publicly funded long-term care programs do provide some coverage of assisted living. And finally, nursing homes. A nursing home is also known as a skilled nursing facility. It's an institution that is primarily engaged in providing skilled nursing care and related services for residents who require medical or nursing care, or for people who require rehabilitation services for the rehabilitation of an injury, a disability, or for sickness. Nursing homes provide services for long-term care or for short-term rehabilitation, and Medicare covers very limited and medically necessary skilled care at a nursing home for people that need short-term skilled care for an illness or injury and that meet certain conditions. Medicare will pay for 100% of nursing home coverage from day 1 through 20 of the stay in the nursing home. From day 21 through 100, the individual is responsible under Medicare for paying $185.50 per day. And every day after day 100 in the nursing home, the individual under Medicare is responsible for all costs related to the nursing home stay. However, Medicaid can also pay for skilled nursing facility or nursing home care. And that's it. Just a few more things. If you have any questions, if you're watching this live or on recording, please call the Aging Resource Center at 289-6874. Visit our website. We have all of our information on there. People can search on a resource database, or feel free to check out our Facebook page. People can message us on Facebook, email us as well with questions. Also in Milwaukee County, our counterpart in the county is the Disability Resource Center. The Disability Resource Center helps anyone under 60 with any type of a disability for any information, questions about information, services, or resources that they have. Their number is 414-289-6660. You can also call me at my direct number here on the screen or send me an email. And also, I just want to mention a couple of upcoming events and opportunities. Tonight, Tuesday, May 11th, from 5:30 to 7, the Division on Aging is looking to get feedback from people 55 and really anybody in the county about what they want and what they do not want for senior services in the county, so we can plan for what we do for the next 3 years. And also, we have a survey available online or by mail that people can request for people 55 and older to tell us what they want, what they do not want for senior services, so we can plan. Coming up on May 26th, the Division on Aging is with AARP is sponsoring a wellness symposium. People can definitely register for that. There's more information available on our Facebook page and on our website about that.